Right, we have to talk about the Jordan Henderson interview in The Athletic today. It's doing massive rounds on social media, a lot of controversy, and we'll break it down in this video what my takes are from his kind of perspective as a footballer, as someone that represents the LGBT community, and of course, a former Liverpool player as well. Some interesting news kind of about how he left the club as well in the article. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. But we have to just say overview, it's a very, very good interview from Crafton and Ornstein. I think it gets to Henderson as much as you can. I think ultimately, the starting kind of layer of any discussion about Jordan Henderson, almost any footballer, there are only few footballers that I can think of off the top of my head that kind of really take social issues to a whole different level and kind of have a poetic kind of view of things. You know, I think of Cantona, for example, and maybe icons like maybe Pele, those kind of figures, and Jordan Henderson certainly isn't that. So I think there's a layer where we expect all values, all political beliefs to be pinned on these footballers who are ultimately have a massive responsibility to their family, a massive responsibility to getting the most out of their playing career, the most out of their ability to kick a ball around to the mass entertainment of millions of people around the world. It's a unique skill set. And Jordan Henderson has got that. So he deserves the right to earn money. He deserves the right to earn the biggest contract he can. The issue with this interview really is that he comes out as a massive, massive hypocrite. And we'll start off with the sporting kind of side of the interview. He comes out and says that, you know, he's fighting for the Euro spot with Euro 2024 on the horizon. He sort of came out and said, actually, this time, does it matter what I do? And he's referring to pre-season. Everyone in those kind of... everyone saw his video where he was super lean, super jacked. Came back like a month early from pre-season, which is, you know, crazy, and was trying to prove himself to Liverpool. And then he kind of makes these comments that he didn't want to play 10 minutes at a time. He's worried about England. If that is true, then that's fair play. And then you see him play for Spurs. You see him go to Aston Villa. You see him go to a side just below Liverpool's level. You don't see him go to Saudi Arabia. You don't. So the issue and the controversy around the interview is that you've got a guy sitting there, and I think there's a lot of arguments in football that you can say, again, Jordan Henderson doesn't have to be Malcolm X. He doesn't have to stand up for these massive values if he doesn't want to. You know, I think it's massively... you can congratulate a footballer if they want to play football and try and stand up for these values. Look at someone like Marcus Rashford. And Jordan Henderson did it during COVID. He got an MBE for you know, what he did for charity during the COVID era, getting money from footballers to donate to the NHS. So this is a guy that does have those kind of qualities, does stand up for things, but at the same time, sitting there and saying that you're playing for El Ittifaq, and he's come out in the interview and basically said that there was no discussion with Steven Gerrard about money, no discussion about any kind of financial benefit. He's out here to try and play regular football. I think it's absolutely crazy. Because if you then say that, I want to play regular football, and he comes out and says, I want to grow the league in Saudi Arabia, that's a noble thing. A bit like when David Beckham went to LA Galaxy. He wanted to grow the league, and he's done that. He's got into Miami 20 years later, so fair play. But you can't then sit there and say, or be frustrated, or say anything about England, because there's absolutely no way you can be picked for Euro 2024 if you're Jordan Henderson. And I think he must know that, surely. He will be coming across sides that have got the likes of Brozovic and Kante and Benzema, who are all past their sell-by date. Same with Ronaldo. So he will be coming up against some tough opposition in the Saudi Arabian League. It's not enough to constitute any kind of taking of a seat on a plane to Euro 2024 in Germany. So that part of the interview is massively contradictory. If he just comes out and says, I want to play football, all right, the money's a byproduct. I want to grow the league. I want to have my own team or manage a team or whatever. Then that's a different story. But comparing it to England and kind of saying that you want to be wanted at a football club and to play for England is absolutely criminal, in my opinion. And then we have to say about the money as well, because he's come out and sort of said that it's not as much money as people are kind of saying it is, and he could have made a load of money at Liverpool. That is the issue in this whole interview. He's gone to make a load of money. And I can definitely sit here and say it in a balanced way that he deserves that opportunity to earn as much money as humanly possible. This is a guy in his 30s. He's achieved everything he can do with Liverpool. He can achieve everything he can do almost with England. I think even playing for England, getting England to semi-finals of the World Cup, kind of unforeseen levels for England. winning the Premier League for the first time in 31 years for Liverpool. This is a guy who deserves that opportunity. He deserves the opportunity to kind of make a massive impact financially on his career before eventually his legs give out, and he's 40-year-old sitting on Sky Sports News as a pundit. So he deserves that opportunity. Fair play. And then you throw in the England factor, and then you do throw in the kind of the slightly political answers about the LGBTQ community. I think it's a cause that's come massively far in football compared to where football was 20, 30, 40 years ago. You have to say it has come on. But someone like Jordan Henderson did have a role and a responsibility. If you choose to wear rainbow laces, if you choose to wear the armband, unfortunately you have taken up a social responsibility, in my opinion. It's okay if you go to a country that doesn't accept that, and every country has its own right to have its own rules and religions and cultures. But I do think the transparency from Jordan Henderson has to be there. I think he's tried, in all fairness, to do that with The Athletic. I think it's the perfect kind of medium, especially with David Ornstein and Adam Crafton, who, I think in the interview gave him a lot of time to kind of get his answers out. It never felt rushed, it never felt pressured, it never felt clickbaity. So the interview is really good, in my opinion. I still think that if you come out and kind of, you wear the rainbow laces, you're a massive proponent for the cause, there has to be some level of transparency. If you're able to be that transparent in the first place, wearing rainbow laces, a cause that touches home for millions of football fans around the world, and then to kind of not really have a public, active, kind of progressive response to why you basically can no longer wear those kind of rainbow laces in your club career, I think a conversation should have been had with Jordan Henderson's team to be proactive about it. Do it in your own terms, and maybe The Athletic coming to you a few months later would have saved a little bit of damage if he'd done it himself. I'm not a PR guy, that's just my perspective on the matter. And just to wrap up, I think Jordan Henderson sort of, at points in the interview, a little bit political, sort of saying, sorry if you feel that way, sorry if you feel that way about the certain issues surrounding the interview. He kind of then wraps up again, he kind of talks a little bit more about the money. He sort of goes on to say, it would have been a lot easier for me to say that. It's not true. It's not the case, because money wasn't mentioned until after the event. I could have stayed at Liverpool and earned a lot of money, and if people don't believe that, then there's nothing I can do. Well, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I'm so sorry. You cannot come out in an interview and say that money was a factor kind of at the back end of your thought process going to Saudi Arabia, a league we'd never heard of 2 years ago, 18 months ago, 12 months ago. That's the reality. So I think that's really disingenuous from Jordan Henderson, because I can sit here and, again, in a balanced way, and sit here and say he deserves that opportunity to earn money, but to sort of sit here and say, oh, he's joined El Ittifaq with money at in the background, with the idea of maybe growing the league, doing it in a way that respects Saudi Arabian culture. He kind of mentions the fact that maybe football is a way of bringing progressive modern values to countries like Saudi Arabia, but then he kind of says that Saudi Arabia has its own right to have its own rules and religions. So that's an interesting statement as well. It's a little bit in the middle ground, and it's a little bit disappointing. It's a little bit opaque, really, and that's the reality of the interview. So it's a bit of an overview. Again, I think Jordan Henderson has the right to earn the money he has. I think does the Saudi Arabian Pro League, right, who have slightly, conservative views on all of these issues, majorly conservative views on many issues that we deem regular parts of our lives in Britain, for example, and in the West. Do they have the right to have a league where they buy Jordan Henderson? 1,000,000% they do. And do they have and should footballers come over and try and change their laws, try and change things? Absolutely not. Jordan Henderson is not Tony Blair. He's not Rishi Sunak. He's a footballer that kicks a ball around. On one level, he's done a lot for social causes in football, especially the COVID stuff, especially with rainbow laces. But then on some level, if you get to that level, you use the goodwill that you generate through that, because no one was asking him to do that, and then to try and be a little bit take a back step, claim it's not about money, claim it's about sporting reasons that don't exist, and then to sort of say, it's not my fault, it's not a money related thing, I'm over here to try and grow a league that I've never heard of 12 months ago. It is slightly frustrating. That's just my take on the interview. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, we really appreciate it. Tomorrow I'll be grading all of the Premier League clubs' starts to the season. It was going to come out tonight, but my computer couldn't hack it. So I'll see you very, very soon.